So, how was it coming back, Coach? How was it just coming back
Great.
to the
I mean,
team?
it's a nice day. The players, look, we didn't get a result, but the players worked and they did a good job. It was a long stretch of a lot of games in a short amount of time. So, they're motivated to, get this part of the season going. And what I mean by this part, meaning the regular season, because we got a lot of regular season games, one a week, which is nice. So it's good. Good to be back out here.
What are some of the positives you're seeing, from your team in this kind of quarter or whatever this
The
early
first quarter?
session? Yeah.
Well, we talked about reality because I like reality checks, and last year we were 0-2-2 after 4 league games, and this year we're 1-2-1. Similarities from last year, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot early last year with some red cards and some things. This year we kind of shot ourselves in the foot with some bad own goals, this, that, and the other. So there's similarities, but we're a little ahead of what we were last year. And I think the depth of the squad is going to help us. Last year when Albert was out and we were kind of shuffling lineups and, Raul and Jordan, it was challenging at times. I mean, we had a couple good results, but, I feel with this group, they all kind of know the system we want to play. And I think we can plug and play. And the first test is going to be on Saturday against a good Houston team. And we'll see if we can, collect points at home.
What was it like watching a game from afar on a
Different.
screen? What kind of setup did you have?
I watched a lot of soccer this weekend. I was on the couch with my cup of tea and everything, and I watched a lot of soccer. I watched Toronto, Chicago, Sam Rogers. I watched LA and Portland. I mean, you might say shoot me in the head for that one.
Wow.
I watched a lot of soccer, and it was interesting. On the TV feed, when we do the panoramic feed, you're kind of lost because you see everything. On the TV feed, they kind of narrow it, so I can see players' emotions a little bit more, and their frustration sometimes if things don't go right, or their anger and some of the things that people show during a sporting event. So that was different. The commentators, sometimes you get skewed by what the commentators say. And that's the burden you guys, you guys write things and people believe what you write. And, there's things that there's a lot of things that I took out of watching from the couch.
So did you listen to the Apple TV call? Did you tune
Yeah.
into KJR?
Yeah. No, I listened.
Accent.
Oh,
Shameless plug.
Of course I'm going to ask.
yeah, I was listening to the Apple TV.
Okay.
For most of the games, I was listening to Apple guys.
Speaking of emotions and what you saw, it felt like in this particular game, there was some frustration with Ferreira. There seemed to be,
For me.
out of what you saw, what were your takes on Ferreira and his emotions?
That's a better way to-
Yeah.
I thought he was fine. Look, nobody was happy in the middle of that game because we were out-possessing them without any end product. And look, let's just set the expectations for Jesus, because it was his first real go-around as a number 9. And we watched the film. There were 2 or 3 moments where we could have played him the ball that we didn't. There were some things that he could have done maybe a little bit better, but that's all going to come in time, because he's a smart soccer player, and he's going to figure it out. The team's going to figure out how he plays that position differently than Jordan, and differently than Danny Masowski, who came on and ran around and did his job. So it's just going to be different. So for me, my expectations, I thought Jesus was good. Some of the off-the-ball stuff, I'll talk to him, but that's, again, it's emotion. That shows to me that he was in the game and he wants to win. That's what that showed to me. Is it obviously the way I want him to show his emotions? Because he can't get a red card or yellow card. That'll cost us. But I didn't mind it.
What do you?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to just the follow up on that one was, why do you feel like maybe Jesus hasn't gotten more competitive minutes at the 9 position?
Well, look, he's been on a minute restriction from the beginning. The rotation got thrown off with De La Vega. Jordan's injury certainly threw him off, but that stretch of 3 games in 7 days, threw us all for a loop. Because De La Vega, Jordan, and then maybe we're a little gun shy. Maybe we don't want a third guy to go down injured because he started 2 games in a row. So there's some interesting things for the sports science guys to go over, because we've never had 3 games with that much travel in that block of time, and then you put the 4th game in St. Louis after an emotional loss, and it's 4 tough games. So he's gonna look. I can tell you this much: he's gonna play a lot of minutes now.
Pedro and Jordan.
No updates. They're still the 4 to 6, and it's nice to see him out there on the field, but it's very preliminary.
And then Kim, or actually it's
Kim and Reed.
Yeah.
Kim and Reed. They're close. They were in full training today. Tomorrow's a -2, so it's not much. They'll be in full training, match day -1. I doubt we'll get them for Houston, but the following game against San Jose, I expect both of them to be available.
And then how are you managing or is anyone going to Defiance for their Open Cup game?
There will be a couple guys that play 45 minutes because our subs bench is really light. So there'll be 2 guys that play 45.
With Danny, you said, Musowski, you said that he did his job, or is there anything that kind of, like he seems like he's had some opportunities to score and
He's had some, but not many. He's still going to be a valuable backup, and I'm going to give Jesus the chance to see what he can do as a 9, and then when we need Danny, we'll bring him on. And Jesus' flexibility, another one of his qualities is if I decide to change one of the guys below, Jesus can drop down in there and play in the pockets like he's good at. So, there might be some minutes still for Dan.
So you don't think that his load is going to be increased at all during this period when you don't have Jordan?
You're talking about Danny Musowski.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll probably find more minutes, just out of necessity.
Yeah.
Jonathan Bell, just what have you seen from him? His versatility and the way he's been able to
He's
step
been
in?
good on the left side, in the middle. Been good, very good.
With Jackson played on the right this last game. Was that? It seemed to be by design in order to get him more into the attack, as we're almost like it seemed like he was
just because Ymer's absence. It's not my preference to put him there. You could tell he wasn't quite as in the first 30 minutes of the game. He wasn't quite as comfortable. He should be able to play there. I'm not letting him off the hook. He made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. But I expect that he can jump from center to right or center to left because he's a smart kid. And so that was just because of Ymer's absence. And Jonathan Bell's been good. We've got flexibility. Kim Kehee's close. So that position's going to be good for us.
How important is? Go ahead.
Christian mentioned with all the games and lack of training, you guys haven't been able to correct as much stuff on the training field. What are some things that you're looking to get corrected with a full week of training, getting guys on the field?
Well, we're still looking to see what the starting lineup's going to be for next week or for the weekend. So today was a little bit of touching that on the attacking movements. Tomorrow we'll work a little bit defensively, and then Friday more attacking movements. The majority of it will be trying to score goals. I think we've been close. I think the possession stats against St. Louis, they were very good, but nothing to show for it. So that end product, that final third stuff, the build-up, where you actually start your attacking movements into the final third, that's what we'll be mainly working on this week.
What are your early thoughts on Houston Dynamo and
Good team. And Nico's return. I don't know which one's more important, probably Nico's return, or is it Houston? I don't know.
do you feel like if Nico was to score, you think he'll celebrate it, not celebrate it? How do you feel like he's going to take?
Nico is a class individual. He will not celebrate to the fan. I know Nico. He's a good guy.
Brian, going back to your 3 center backs, how important, left to right, how important is their judgment, and then judgment is in when to go up and come back, and then being part of the distribution and a point in your 2 backs there?
If I'm understanding your question, they go up and back. Look, the two widest guys have the freedom to carry the ball sometimes in a forward advanced position. I thought Jackson in the second half, when we were trying to score, was like 30 yards from goal and kind of involved in the build-up. Normally it's 3 and 2, and we want them to kind of be involved but still be active defending. So there's a little bit of me that says, yeah, Jackson's talented enough. That's why Josh was going to be handy in that position, because he's got the skill set to kind of push forward in those moments. Nuhu, we all get excited when he pushes the ball up on the left-hand side when he's our left-sided center back. So there is some, there is some value in that, but it's not a requirement. I mean, Jonathan Bell will play how he plays, steady. Yaimar does a great job there. Jackson running things from a central position now since Yaimar's back. We should be fine.
You know, set pieces, you want them going up, obviously.
Oh, on set pieces? Yeah. Well, talking about manufacturing goals, we're going to need to get a couple goals on set pieces.
Hey, guys.